No way he could fail. Tonight is the night. It's now or never. When he delayed, she expressed frustration and even anger. You better not be bullshitting me and saying you're going to do this, then purposely get caught. She pressured him not to procrastinate. In one text, when he simply asked her, "How was your day?" she replied, "When are you going to do it? Stop ignoring the question." She helped him devise a plan to kill himself using a combustion engine to poison himself with carbon monoxide gas. She encouraged him to Google ways to make carbon monoxide, but she also proposed other painless and even effective suicide methods, such as hanging or by using a bag. Hanging is painless, and it takes like a second if you do it right. When they finally decided on a portable generator as the mechanism of his death, she told him to take some Benadryl just in case. When the original generator malfunctioned, she told him to get a different gas machine. It was then that he found the gas-powered water pump. She encouraged him to conceal the suicide plan from his parents. She told him to lie to his mother about where he was going so that she would not interfere with him leaving the house to commit suicide. She warned him not to let his father see him get the gas machine. She advised him on how not to get caught, telling him not to do it in his driveway where he would be easily found. She instructed him to go to a secluded parking lot. Just park your car. Sit there. It's not a big deal. She made him promise that he would go through with the plan. "You need to do it, Conrad." "Okay, I'm going to do it today," he said. "You promise?" "Conrad, I promise, babe. I have to now." "Carter, you can't break a promise. Go somewhere you know you won't get caught. You can find the place. I know you can." And he made good on that promise. Just after 6 p.m. on July 12th, he left his mother's house, telling her that he was going to his friend's house. Instead, he drove to the Kmart parking lot. His last text at 6:25 was to the defendant. "Okay, I'm almost here." She then asks, "Did you delete all the text messages?" But it doesn't end with text messages. After that last text, Conrad called the defendant at 6:28 p.m., where they spoke for 43 minutes. Immediately after that phone call, at 7:12, the defendant called him back, and their phones connected for another 47 minutes. 3 minutes later, at 8:02, the defendant texts a friend that she was just on the phone. Loud noise. She heard moaning, and after 20 minutes, he wouldn't answer when she called his name. I would suggest that the records will show that call was the last call that Conrad Roy ever made. He never used his phone again. And at 8:25, the defendant was texting another friend, "I think he just killed himself." And I would submit it was during that last phone call that Conrad got out of his truck as he was being poisoned, and he got scared. And the defendant fucking told him to get back in. Who would do this and why? I would suggest the evidence will show that the defendant was a very needy person who craved attention from anyone, quite frankly, but she didn't have many close friends. You're going to hear from some of the girls that knew her during high school. I would submit they will tell you that she texted them incessantly. She was trying to get close to them and be part of their lives, but these girls had many things going on, and they really didn't hang around with her outside of school. They had their own activities. So in June of 2014, when the school year was coming to an end, the defendant needed something to get their attention. And she used Conrad as a pawn in her sick game of life and death. She knew her plan to get attention would work because she pre-tested it. On July 10th, 2 days before Conrad committed suicide, she did a dry run, texting several girls that Conrad had gone missing, while simultaneously texting and talking with Conrad, telling him to go get the gas machine. The girls immediately responded, and they started texting to her, texting concern, asking if the police were involved, and again, I talked to his mom at 9. She said they were still looking, but I think soon because it's been 24 hours, and that's when you can report a missing person. And his mom said she was going to call me if she finds him, and she hasn't. She never talked to Conrad's mother. Conrad wasn't even missing. She was talking and texting with Conrad. She also tells her friends in that same July 10, July 11 dry run that it's her fault that she killed himself with the carbon monoxide from a generator. They, again, offering her comfort, tell her it's not her fault. She begins to get the attention that she's been craving for. They are paying attention, so she has to make it happen. She has to make him kill himself so that she continue to get that attention and not be known as a liar. She has to be the grieving girlfriend to get the sympathy and the attention that she believes she deserves. Again, on July 11th, again, when Conrad is not missing, she tells her friend Sam Boardman he's still missing, and she should have called his mother or someone to prevent this. At that same evening, she texts Conrad, "I'm not going to sleep until you're in the later on." What the evidence won't show, Your Honor, is a phone call for help on 14 because there wasn't one. The defendant never called the police, Conrad's mother, or her own parents to tell them what was going on in that truck as she listened to him die. Instead, she texted multiple people after he died. "I think he just killed himself," while to another friend at the same time she texted, "I'm not wearing a bra." Immediately, the defendant sent text to his family implying she had no knowledge of what had just happened in that truck. On July 12th, she texts his 14-year-old sister, "Do you know where your brother is?" Her lies continue the next day when she texts Conrad's mother. And this would be for the first time that she's actually texted Conrad's mother, July 13th. She asks his mother if she knows where he is. At no point did the defendant ever mention a thing about her involvement in Conrad's suicide. Instead, she offered to come down to Mattapoisett or Fairhaven and help look for him. She told them to stay positive. From July 13th to December, the defendant texted Conrad's mother, telling her that Conrad loved her and that his death was not his mother's fault. She said she would be there to console the family. She never admitted to anyone in the Roy family that she helped Conrad for weeks to devise a suicide plan, or that she was on the phone with Conrad or knew he committed suicide in the Kmart parking lot. She repeatedly lied to them. Everyone tried their hardest to save him. I never tried harder at He was the most important person in the world to me. I saw my life with him. She told her friend who knew the reasons why he died, that she was special because she was the last person he talked to. Special. She told Conrad, or she asked Conrad, or she directed Conrad on July he would kill himself, that he should tweet her, that she should be the last shout out before he died. She also told him to write a suicide note, and then, after his death, begged his mother, week after week, to send it to her. When she learned he was cremated, she asked again his little sister if she could have some of his ashes. When she found out he died on July 13th, or when it was confirmed that he was dead by Conrad's mother, she made a Facebook post about his suicide, and again, the floodgates of support for her happened. They were opened. People started texting her, consoling her, visiting her, and she suddenly became important, the grieving girlfriend. In the days following Conrad's death, she sought attention and sympathy, posting frequently on Facebook and her own. She also created what she called Homers for Conrad, a baseball fundraiser in his memory. When she posted that on Facebook, she texted, "LOL, I'm famous now." She became a self-described advocate against suicide, even though she wanted to put herself out there. And with that homers for Conrad, when Conrad's best friend, Tom Gamble, said, "Why is it being held in Plainville? Nobody knows him there. He never been there." She got angry. She told Tom that it was her event. He shouldn't get credit for it, and that it was going to be in Plainville. You're going to hear about the Conrad's phone was examined by the state police. There was also mapping and cell site locations that put his phone, it's consistent with Conrad's truck being in the area of the Kmart parking lot from about 6 p.m. until his body on July 13th at 5:25 p.m. Items including the defendant's computer and Conrad's computer were also taken into evidence. On October 2nd of 2014, the defendant was interviewed by the police and her lies continued. She said she intended to report Conrad's suicide plans to his mother, but that she didn't have his mother's phone number. The records will indicate she had the mother's phone number in her phone as early as July 5th. She also told the police that she was unknowingly talking to Conrad on the phone during his suicide, and that when their phones disconnected, she didn't think much of it. But that's not what she said on July 21st after she learned that the detectives had Conrad's phone for examination. They have to go through his phone and see if anyone encouraged him to do it on the text and stuff. They read my messages with him, "I'm done. His family will hate me and I can go to jail." From July 6th to July 12th, she asked Conrad in excess of 40 times when he was going to kill himself. By her wanton and reckless conduct, she committed a felony of involuntary manslaughter, causing serious bodily injury and death to Conrad Roy. There is no doubt, Your Honor, that Conrad Roy had issues and in October of 2012 attempted to take his life. But this was very different. This time was very different. In July of 2014, he had someone berating him day after day, beating him down, telling him he had no good life, no future. And in 2012, when a friend found out that he was taking pills, they called the police. In 2014, Carter on the other end of the phone. She never called anyone for help. She told him to get the fuck back in the car. She put him in that car that night. She listened to him as he died. Her behavior was wanton and reckless, and as a result, Conrad Roy is dead. We'd ask at the end of the trial that you find her guilty of involuntary manslaughter.
Thank you, Ms. Flynn. Mr. Cataldo, do you choose to make an opening at this time, sir?
Yes, thank you. Your Honor, this case is a suicide case. It is a suicide. It is not a homicide. And older than Michelle Carter, who has had a long, long history of suicidality, suicide attempts, suicidal ideation, finally caused his own death. Michelle Carter was not present. Michelle Carter had been texting with him. She did not physically see this individual for over 1 year. The evidence will show at times through the texting. Conrad Roy even acknowledges that Michelle doesn't have influence over her. And the evidence of the texting is overwhelming that Conrad Roy was on this path to take his own life for years. And I would also suggest to this court to go through this case methodically and read in a chronological order. The Commonwealth is trying to have it so that the evidence is all about Michelle Carter. There is so much evidence about Conrad Roy and his decisions and his choices that he made. For instance, the water power pump that caused the death of Conrad Roy, we are told. How did that pump? What will the evidence show how the pump physically got into the car? The evidence will show that the pump was placed in the car by Conrad Roy. 2 days prior, how did a generator get into the back of his truck? Not the water pump that ultimately took his life. What about a generator 2 days before? The evidence will show that Conrad Roy tried to take his own life 2 days prior. What about a water intoxication, a suicide attempt that Conrad Roy, the evidence will show, made in June of 2014, prior to Michelle Carter ever telling him he should take his own life? And he tells in the text messages to Michelle Carter, as you will clearly see, that he tried to kill himself by water intoxication. And the court will also have an opportunity to examine all the Google searches and Safari and what those histories demonstrate. It clearly demonstrates the facts of the searches on his computer will demonstrate and show he was suicidal and wanted to end his own life, and it was his choice. Those are the facts that the court will see and have an opportunity to examine. These two individuals, 2012, and only a matter of months prior to, only a matter of months subsequently, Ms. Carter was communicating via Facebook. And he told her, "Do you care what's been?" And Michelle Carter, you will see in the Facebook records, responds, "No, what's been happening to you?" He said, "I just got up, tried to." I'll say, if you tried to kill yourself, why did you do that? You will see indications that he's only days out of the psychiatric hospital, telling Michelle, who at this point in time I believe he's physically met once, to dissuade him from killing himself. She actually, through the records, the court will have an opportunity to examine, reaches out by text message to his sister and says, "Is your brother with you?" Then reaches out to a female friend of Conrad and said, "Conrad's talking about killing himself." This is back in 2012. We're at 1 year younger than Conrad Roy, only met him once. Reaches out to a friend of Conrad. She then proceeds to have a long-term texting relationship. The evidence will show from that point forward, they only met another 2, maybe 3 times physically. Michelle Carter, you will see during the texting relationship over years, the evidence will show over years, tried to talk Conrad Roy out of taking his own life. That is so important. You will see the facts of Michelle over the years, trying to talk him out of taking his own life. He continuously is talking throughout their texting relationship, sometimes not for months, but continuously talking about his suicidal thoughts and his plans to end his life by suicide at one point in time. You will have an opportunity to match up his texting with her over the years with the psychiatric records. You'll have an opportunity to review. They're detailed, they're numerous. They clearly show Conrad Roy was suicidal, had attempted this several times previously. In 2012, when he first told Michelle that he was trying to take his own life, it was only a matter of weeks after he told Michelle that he had the big Tylenol overdose and went back into a hospital and got out. There was a period of time that Conrad was not talking or texting Michelle about suicide. However, we will see that come up several times through the year of 2013. You will see records that he went in to see a psychiatric professional who wanted to check him in and take him in inpatient. Patient refused, would not go inpatient. And that is important because in the text you will see Conrad Roy continuously told Michelle Carter, "I do not want to go back to a psychiatric hospital. They don't help." Now, as a fact finder, see Michelle Carter in a very important time frame is June of 2014. Very important month, I would suggest to this court. That the facts will show that Michelle Carter is going through her own struggles. She's texting and speaking with friends about her own frailties, mental health frailties, about her cutting and her suicidal thinking previously in attempt. And then you will have an opportunity to watch the conversation by text with Conrad Roy throughout June of Conrad's, and I'll show you a few of the examples in a moment, Your Honor. But to go through with Conrad Roy's text in June is so telling. You will have an opportunity to look and determine if Michelle Carter was trying to talk him out of it. Go to McLean Hospital. They will help you. She had nothing but resistance from Conrad Roy. You will also have an opportunity, Your Honor, to, and I'll get back to the text in one moment, to go through various Google searches during June, if you will, of 2014. You will see 2014. You will have opportunities as a fact finder to look. Have you ever reached for the point in time when you write in committing suicide makes you happy right off of his computer? This is in June, when Michelle Carter has not advocated or encouraged him to commit suicide. The evidence will show that it was Mr. Roy who had a plan to take his own life, a long-held belief. In July, easy ways to find poisons. Carbon monoxide poisoning. I mentioned before about, let me leave the podium for a minute.
You know this?
Yes.
Watch out.
You will see, and the evidence will show, Your Honor, his search term, water intoxication, on June 2014. The evidence will show in the texting, well before Michelle Carter has ever in his plan and thought that that may be a good idea for him, that he is researching water intoxication. One of the great importance of that, Your Honor, is the facts will show that he went in the texting and actually attempted to do that and kill himself prior to Michelle Carter even knowing about it. He tells her in the text messages. We also have other searches, Your Honor. Way to make your death look like an accident. Way to make your death look like an accident in June of 2016. The evidence will show, Your Honor, that Michelle Carter in texting asked Conrad Roy, why would you want to make your death look like an accident? Conrad Roy responds, because I don't want anyone to feel guilty. He is also in June researching science. Your Honor, those are some examples. Suicide by cop, the evidence will show. Suicide by cop, quickest ways to kill yourself. There are hundreds of these searches throughout June and July. There are images seized off his computer. My time has come, and so I'll just show it to the court. My time has come, and so I'm gone to a better place far beyond. I love you all, as you can see, but it's better now because I'm free. his suicidal thinking, Your Honor, thinking that this was good for him, is clear in this computer image. People say suicide is selfish and cowardly. That's bullshit. It's more selfish to expect somebody to go through life feeling like shit. It is not their duty to keep hell. You fucking morons. What's cowardly is causing someone to consider taking their own life, putting someone through so much shit that they'd rather be and face another day of your cowardly actions. Society is shit. The evidence will show that he was texting Michelle Carter links of the best way to kill yourself. The evidence will show that he was texting Michelle Carter how to kill yourself using the inhalation of carbon monoxide gas. The very way the evidence will show to end his own life. The texting in June, as I mentioned, the evidence will show, is very important because Dr. Bregan, Your Honor, will testify to this court about the antidepressants and the medical effects or the effects that these antidepressants have on certain individuals, especially adolescents. Michelle Carter, in 2014, in June, has gone into McLean Hospital for her issues. She is also in the anchor records. You will have an opportunity to review those anchor records. In them, she tells her counselor she's struggling, that she has a boyfriend who has no support, and she feels overwhelmed by it. Those are the words, that she feels overwhelmed. A 17-year-old dealing with her own hospital, psychiatric inpatient, is dealing with this, sadly. She's receiving text messages. June, the evidence. Your Honor, she says to Conrad Roy, have you thought about getting professional help? Like, I think I'm going to go away to a place for my eating disorder to help me overcome it and stuff. The place also deals with psychiatric problems and disorders, so too they can help you over some of this. I think it will really help you, and we can go together, so we will be there for each other. Where are you going? It's called I think it would be so good for you, and we would get through our issues together. Think about it. You aren't going to get no matter how many you are. No professional help like me. People who know how to treat and fix it. The evidence will also show, Your Honor, that she continues to ask to come to McLean Hospital. He should go there for the help that she can provide to him. She sends him, later in June, she sends him links to help guides, to calm clinics. Conrad Roy, by the end of June, after continuously texting Michelle Carter, I think Michelle Carter, the evidence will show, by texting, and my Michelle says, no, why? Conrad, for wanting to kill myself so bad and dragging you along with this. In dragging you along with this. Just days out of McLean Hospital. Overwhelmed. Earlier in the month, I wish you could see yourself as I see you. Then you'd love yourself. It frustrates me. Well, he says, well, I don't. You don't know me well enough. You honestly say that right now, she responds. I know you don't see yourself like that. I said, I wish you could. Conrad, because we have only hung out like 3 times. Evidence will show that their relationship was a texting relationship. It was not a boyfriend-girlfriend getting together physically all the time. You also see texting. I won't go through, obviously, all of them. There are thousands of them. But the texting that led up to the break, Conrad, you're not going to do anything, right? I don't want to talk to you because I feel like I'm getting you upset and bringing you down. That's what Conrad said, Your Honor. That's what he says to her. I don't want to talk to you, feel like I'm getting you upset and bringing you down. I don't deserve anything. Says, so I'm stuck in this deep hole. Says, I don't want to be dug out. Conrad, we should be like Romeo and Juliet at the end. Now he knows, the evidence will show, that Michelle Carter by this time is just out of McLean's and has significant. We should be like Romeo and Juliet at the end. Haha, I'd love to be your Juliet with a smiley face. But at the end, Conrad says, then Michelle, oh yeah, fuck no, we are not dying. It's just, the evidence will show, and Dr. Bregan will testify, that there is a time where Michelle, and she begins adopting the idea that there is, Conrad wants to decide to take his own life. That is what the evidence will show. I won't go through all of them, Your Honor, but I will suggest to this court that the evidence will show that there was also other factors involved, the domestic violence, the domestic abuse that this 18-year-old man had going on in his life. He had previously committed or attempted to commit suicide with his father. He was, unfortunately, in 2014, abused physically by Conrad, his father. Sent to the hospital, the evidence will show, and you'll have the records in evidence. Sent to the hospital with a concussion, had CAT scans done. You also have the opportunity to go through the records, all these psychiatric records, and you'll see what a profound impact that those issues dealing with the abuse that he suffered, the physical abuse, as well as the verbal abuse from his uncle and grandfather. Those are right out of the records that the court will have an opportunity to review. Those were the people he worked with. The beach with his mother, with his automobile, all set up to go take his own life. He explained that he had been accepted to Fitchburg College, that he didn't want to go to college. And his mother explains to him, well, you don't have to go to college. Maybe you can go to work, psychiatric records. That was a major stressor for this young man. Had to be done. What the evidence will not show is that Michelle Carter threatened to injure or harm Conrad Roy. It was Conrad Roy's idea, the evidence will clearly show from all of the texting, to take his own life. It was not Michelle Carter's idea. After Conrad Roy had taken his own life, it is obtained and found a note. Conrad Roy had left Michelle Carter a note, and he thanks her several. The records indicating his suicidal thinking, stunning. And when you take all of this and realize that there's an automobile, a truck, parked in a parking lot, that Conrad Roy will show that he drove this automobile, filled it with the fumes, and then stepped out. And he's on a telephone. And on his way to the Kmart, through the texting, you will see that he does not call 911. He does not call his mother. He does not. This will show he calls Michelle Carter. Because in the texting you will see, Your Honor, he thanks for being the one person who understands, because everybody else just wants him to live and he doesn't want to live. And he's thanking her for understanding the way he thinks. So he is now convinced, the evidence will show, Michelle Carter to think that this is the best option for him. And it was his choice, his voluntary physical acts, the evidence will show, that Michelle Carter was 30 miles away in an automobile for a lengthy period of time, some time. Carbon monoxide is not an instant death. So, if he steps out, if the evidence shows that he steps out of the automobile and is told to get back in, Michelle Carter is not present. The evidence will show that Conrad Roy doesn't hang up the phone. He doesn't walk over to the Kmart store for any assistance. He doesn't block Michelle Carter's phone calls. There's a block calling feature that you'll see in evidence, and you'll hear that he utilizes his block caller. He knows how to block people's calls. He doesn't block Michelle Carter. Because for Conrad Roy, Michelle Carter is his support. Because he wants to take his own life. Michelle Carter does not cause his death. She was not reckless, and she caused his death. She is under the belief, under the influence of the antidepressant SSRIs as an adolescent with impulse control issues and problems. And the known effects of these SSRIs are irrational thinking, impulsivity, irritability, and irritability meaning becoming very frustrated and lashing out. Those are known side effects of these. Celexa, the medication that she was taking and had recent, after Dr. Bregan will speak, the evidence about this. When it changes, it can trigger in people certain side effects. And those side effects get triggered in combination with the barrage of I want to take my own life, and when you hear evidence that she's trying to talk him out of it, and there's an abrupt change, and say, well, if you're going to do it, then do it. How are you going to do it? One of the texts he says, do you want to help me? You will have a text where Conrad Roy asks Michelle Carter, help me. She's going to help you how? Help me look stuff up. He's asking her, dragging her in. All of this, she wasn't reckless. The evidence, this is his goal. And even if she were reckless, the evidence will show she didn't cause his death. His death was caused. And again, this court knows it's a beyond reasonable doubt standard. It was caused by carbon monoxide poisoning created by a device in the back seat of Conrad Roy's truck that he himself drove there, that he himself had to get going. You'll see crime scene photos that the police took of Conrad Roy. You will see a toolkit in his car. Toolkit. Because 2 days prior, he attempted to take his own life with a different generator. and he couldn't get it working. And you'll see in the text messages he bought a toolkit, and he actually is trying to fix the original generator that didn't accomplish what he wanted. And in the pictures hanging in his truck, evidence that he wanted to take his own life. The cause of his death was not Michelle Carter. The cause of his death was a suicide. The evidence will show that. There are Facebook records that this court, as a fact finder, will have to go through. There are many, many psychiatric records. But after all, Your Honor, in the text messages, she was dragged into this, Conrad Roy's own words. In the end, Conrad Roy wanted to make it look like an accident, you saw the text, because he didn't want anyone to feel guilty about it. That's because the cause of his death was his own doing. That's what he wanted. That was his intent. Will show that. They will not show, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Michelle Carter caused Conrad Roy's death, even if you as a fact finder were to determine that she caused him or got him thinking about suicide. The facts clearly don't demonstrate that. But the cause is carbon monoxide poisoning that he created, that he stepped into that car. You will also see she did not inflict. The evidence will show that there was no infliction of harm by Michelle Carter. She was 30 miles away as a youthful offender. That's what the government would have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there was an. I suggest that the Your Honor, we are dealing with a tragedy, a sad story. It's a suicide. Somebody supports another individual in a suicide. It doesn't create a homicide. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Michelle Carter caused Conrad Roy's death, I suggest, is lacking. And ask that you find her.
Thank you, Mr.